welcome.
Oh,
Great pleasure to have you here, Heather, from Google. And so thanks for joining us to kind of talk about the future of technology and specifically AI. So kind of first question to you really, how do you see at Google the future of AI looking, and then how is it going to really change things?
I think one of the exciting things about technology is that we're actually very bad at predicting how it's going to be used. We've had a hypothesis for a long time that natural language processing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these sort of very advanced technologies were going to be useful in our mission to organize the world's information. And so we've been working on AI for over 2 decades. What we're seeing now with large language models, generative AI, is kind of a whole new generation of technology. And it's really exciting to see how people are experimenting with it today. But it's very likely that in 5 years, we'll be using it for really different things than we had ever imagined. The early experiments, you sort of saw this over the last 18 months, were people playing around with it. How can I write a sonnet like Shakespeare about my cat? Right, and getting creative in making imagery. We have young kids who have these vibrant ideas and maybe not always the easiest way to express. And now they have sort of easy tools to make the next book report or, a movie about their, favorite pet rock or something, right? So these are the sort of very obvious creative things we can do. But we're also finding that it's useful to solve some of our big problems that we know are data related. And, some good kind of early data suggests that AI is very good for things like pattern recognition with imagery. So we see it going into self-driving cars. We see it being used for medical diagnosis and imaging to assist radiologists in spotting tumors a bit quicker. And I think some early work that our DeepMind team has done on breast cancer images showed a 30% increase in accuracy. And that's not replacing radiologists or doctors, but actually giving them tools to do the job better, quicker. And actually that's better outcome for the patient, both from a health perspective, but also, sense of comfort. But I think we're also now going to see a whole new generation of AI enhanced technologies to make safety, digital safety happen.
Okay. Yeah.
And so just this week, we announced that we're doing some early prototyping experimentation with, on an Android phone, can we put a nano model on the phone?
Wow.
And use it to detect spam calls, spam texts.
Right.
And, one of the problems we have with cybersecurity is the user knowing whether something's dangerous or not. And I liken this to when I was growing up, my mom would say, don't walk down a dark alley at night. And you build these instincts because things look dangerous, they feel dangerous. We don't have that version in the digital landscape. So now we think actually these assistants will be able to say, look, this looks like a dangerous phone call. You might want to be just a bit more suspicious about this. You might want to think twice before you give out any sensitive information. And hopefully people will start to sort of question and scrutinize the scams a little bit easier. We hope over time we could probably actually spot these by default for people, even the advanced scams.
Well, that's amazing. And I think, so if we flip that on its head then, these technologies are clearly a force for good. If we look at how they might create or exacerbate existing threats to the UK cybersecurity, if you were to not be too apocalyptic with the assessment or prediction, but what do you see the impact might be, and whether that be on government, industry, or wider society, and then how do we prepare for that?
Well, like all technology that we've ever harnessed or used, there's a dual use. You can use it for good or bad. I mean, think about when we harnessed fire, really good for cooking and sanitization. Also, you can harm people with it, right? And so all technology has those elements. I think we are starting to see the threat actors experiment also with generative AI. It enables really good phishing emails. If they speak one language and the victim speaks another language, that makes translation easier. And of course, we see deep fakes, so fake imagery being made. The early signs are that things like deep fakes people are actually able to question it a little bit. Like they're not quite good enough yet that people are completely fooled. And actually, I think we're seeing people become more skeptical about imagery in general. If you Photoshop an image, now people are like, is this a deep fake?
Quite.
Why were you Photoshopping your image? Whereas, we've been Photoshopping images, to just make us look like better photographers for a long time. And so I think, we are seeing the threat actors use this technology. But as I've sort of hinted already, we're using the technology to detect them.
Right.
And I think actually we've got a better shot on the defense side to defend with AI. We have more data, access to better models, and we own the delivery end to end of the service.
Right.
And so because of that, the threat actor has actually limited access to that attack surface. And so my prediction is, and I'm a defense optimist.
Sure.
Is that,
we always need some optimism.
We need some optimism in this field.
Yeah,
absolutely.
right.
And I am a defense optimist. I think we're going to be able to use this for more good than they will harm.
Well, and I agree, right? I think that's it's wonderful to hear, though. But you've been in the industry as long as I have, and you've seen the various cycles where we don't appear to seem to learn. Every time a new technology comes along, we seem to be able to bring the same vulnerabilities with it. And so I guess the question to you now is, it feels like we're at a watershed moment where we actually do want to build secure technology going forward. But how do we ensure that really happens, that we build and use these technologies safely and securely in the future to avoid kind of bringing the same old legacy problems generation after generation?
I think the most exciting thing right now is that we are even having this conversation. As you think about all of the technology disruptions we've had in the last sort of 30 years, I haven't seen us before now have the safety conversation so early. If you think about when personal computers entered the home for the first time, mobile technology, Internet of Things, it wasn't within the first 2 months that governments were asking, what are we going to do about the safety of this? And it's an everyday conversation in homes all over the world where I travel. People are asking this question. So I think first and foremost, our awareness to ask the question, I think, is a really positive sign. AI is not a unique monster that we suddenly invented. It is software. And we've been talking about securing software for decades now. And actually, in this moment, as we talk about things like software bills of material, being able to measure the level of security in software for the first time, having these conversations about how that software is developed, maintained, built, deployed. It's the right time to have the conversation because now we have AI and we want to apply all those principles to AI as well. Yes. To the data training sets. Do we know it's locked down so that it's not been tampered with? Right. Do we know how the software was built? Was it built in a secure way? Have we protected the data that's provided to us by the user? This will sound very familiar. We've Gmail,
right? Yeah.
Right. We have data, we have code, we have deployment, and we keep user data, right? So all of those principles we've been developing for decades apply to AI, and so now's the right time.
Great. So, cyber is, I think, recognized now as a team sport. There's not one person. It's not just industry, government, or wider society that really should do it on their own. So, kind of given that, what's your view on the role that kind of cohered group of parties has to play here in terms of securing future technology? And what should we be doing now? I think, what do we want to mobilize? What's the message we want to give people that we should be going after? There's a crocodile that's nearest the canoe.
Absolutely. Like, AI is a foundational technology, not for any one company, but for humanity. Right. And so it's important that we create the table for everyone to sit around and to think about these problems. We've been blessed with very smart people who know how to build foundational models, which is really great. Now we have to sort of come together as a society and figure out what are the norms, how do we want to use it, how do we keep it safe. So I've been really pleased to see how quickly those forums are coming together. Google has joined the Frontier Foundation Model Forum, the FMF, I think. And sort of we have comparable versions of that all over the world as the different governments come to the table. And I think that is very important. And then I think over time it'll be important that we all work together to harmonize the different ideas that come out as well, and the different regulation frameworks that are suitable for different parts of the world. And I think, the collaboration, the partnership, government bringing the public interest to the table, companies bringing the innovation, experimentation, like here's how we're the scientists think we're going to use this technology, and also the public, right? And I think we have to hear from people in academia, in public service, in the people, the users who are using this every day, to come together and kind of build that vision together, so that it's not sort of a unilateral view on how things are done.
So it sounds like we're on the cusp of ethically safe and secure technology, probably for the first time in our lifetimes.
Isn't it amazing? And then we'll actually be able to use the AI to help fix the things we broke over the past few decades. So I'm excited about that.
17 years of technical debt we need to go and pay back now.
Yes, so. And it'll be cheaper and easier to do so.
That's amazing. Well, thank you very much for coming to speak to us.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Ollie. Thank you.